The reason those opportunities came about is because we're grinding it out, we're creating content, we're posting content that's going viral. Every single corporation that reached out to us, from Lowe's to Liquid Death and other companies like that, is because they were served something organically in the golf space and they thought, this is fun, let me reach out to this company.
So they
wasn't just reaching out.
They reached out to you.
They all reached out to us.
Yeah. Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that inspires action and helps you to grow your side hustle into a thriving income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. Today's episode is a prime example of how starting small can snowball into something way bigger than you ever expected. Scott Taube launched with a simple idea: a deck of cards designed to be played on the golf course. That's it. Fast forward a few years, and now he's running tournaments, landing corporate gigs, going viral on social, and partnering with brands like Lowe's and Liquid Death. All that from a deck of cards. Not bad. Scott tells us how it all started, from bootstrapping an idea, why just getting started can unlock doors you didn't even know existed, naming tips that help your brand be found, stick, and not sound like everybody else, and how that deck of cards has spun out into events, merch, and other creative income streams. You just never know where it'll lead until you start. Now, for tips, tricks, and inspiration to start and grow your next big idea, here's my conversation with the founder of Bad Cards for Good Golfers, Scott Taube. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
There is no shortage of money-making side hustle ideas out there. The challenge for most people is getting started. It's that taking action piece. You not only took action, but you did it with no e-commerce experience, no background in producing playing cards. What were you thinking? Literally, what was your mindset? What was your attitude? Like, when you got this idea, at some point you thought, I'm going to do this. Tell us about that pivotal time.
Yeah, I thought it may be arrogantly of like, I don't know, how hard could it be? Or like, that sort of thought of like, I could probably figure this out. And if I can't, then I know. But yeah, I had enough knowledge to know the steps that had to be taken and the sort of like logistical side of things and what components were coming in. And then my research filled in other components I wasn't expecting to learn things. Like you learn about the SKU numbers and how to register those and all of that. That was all a whole new world of wormhole I fell into. And
yeah, because at that point you're like, what's a SKU?
Yeah. Right? I'm like, it's a barcode thing. What do they use them for? Oh, it's a nationally oh, okay, here. But yeah, it was just one step at a time. It's just like, all right, I have an idea. Can I get enough ideas to make a card game? And then I opened a spreadsheet and I was like, I'll give myself a few weeks or a month or two on this. And it's 3 days later, there were over 100 cards. I was like, okay, well, that part worked out.
Oh my gosh. So let's dive into that and take us step by step, starting with how you came up with the idea.
Yeah, it was a really organic thing. I'm just naturally wired in the way of like logistics. And that comes in a fun side of that is like gameplay. So, and I've done that ever since I was a kid. You're playing a game, you're like, this would be more fun if we did this or added this rule or what if this, and it keeps building. And so I've always done that. And when it came to golf, as somebody who was, I don't even think I could say I had a handicap, maybe 30. I couldn't break 100 on the course. I just played for fun as a kid, a couple times a year, and then into adulthood even less, as it's an expensive sport. So I would play once or twice a year. I get invited out. I'm like, yeah, I would love to. Let's go do that. But I wasn't there to work on my game, really. You can't go out once, twice a year and expect to improve. And so the goal is just to have fun. So my stipulation was always, if somebody invited me out, I'm like, yes, I will come play, but you cannot give me any advice or any swing tips. Like, that'll ruin my day. Just
you golfed with my dad.
Yeah, don't try to improve anything.
Yeah,
I'm going to be having a good time. Don't get in the way of that. And so I went out with a buddy who played a lot more than me. And yeah, he honored that for sure. And then a couple holes in, it was like, all right, this time you hit 2 balls everywhere, or you take my drive. And then, so we were just making up rules to try to get us closer together. Mm-hmm. And we'd come up with weird, funny stuff. And then it was like, my brain just kept going on that after the fact. And so for weeks, I'd be like, oh, what else would be funny? Oh, what else would be a good idea? What else is good? And I wasn't writing any of it down. And then like 4 years passed and it was an idea. And all it was what I thought was a good idea. And it wasn't in the market anywhere, which is really surprising to me.
Yes.
Because it seemed sort of obvious. And then It was a story I told at parties. Oh, I had this idea for this thing. And I was like, I had this realization once. We had a couple people over to our apartment, my wife and I, and we were playing a card game I love called Exploding Kittens. And in that irreverent card space that Cards
Yes.
Against Humanity started not so few years ago. And I thought, and I started telling the story of this. And at the end of the night, I'm just like, man, like, I'm going to be the guy 20 years from now telling that story at a party, or somebody else will have done it. And I'm like, oh, I had this idea, or I would have done it better. And so my wife encouraged me. She's like, just do it. What would it cost to do it? And I'm like, I think I can bootstrap the whole thing for $5,000. I think I could do the whole thing to see if it works.
Yeah.
And then it was just a matter of what's the first step.
That was that pivotal moment at the party where you thought,
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy that's talking about this 15, 20 years from now
Yeah.
saying, I had that idea.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I want to be the guy contributing to the other people at parties being like, I had that idea.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So you're going to do this thing. What was your first step?
The first step was to come up with the gameplay.
Okay.
It's going on top of another game. So there's a lot of things to consider with etiquette. Even with just a goofing off round, there's still etiquette to be had on the course. There's pace of play is a very big concern. And so the goal was like, okay, we need to design this in a way that doesn't really affect the overall pace. And while drawing a card and reading it, it's going to take a little bit of time, but you can do that on the tee box while you're waiting, stuff like that. So we're very intentional. Like we were this like code of conduct, right? It can't overly affect pace in a negative way. We have some that affect the pace in a very positive way that get your game going really fast.
Yes.
It can't cause damage to the course in any way,
right?
Or clubs and players was the other one, but that one's a little gray. There's some of those rules are kind of like use your best judgment.
I've seen some of your social media clips, Scott. So
yeah. So yeah, then from there it's just like, can we come up with enough ideas to make a game that's playable? And we realize, okay, if everybody's drawn, it's 4 cards per hole, and there's 18 holes, and we want to play differently, and we want not all of the cards to be drawn. So I came up with this magic number of 110 was what would fit in the box. And so came up with the ideas. I'm like, the ideas are there. Can I design them? And then So I had a limited Photoshop knowledge, was able to get in and design and lean on some help from some friends who were in the printing world that could give me advice. And yeah, and that was just step by step. Next step is who prints these?
Find a printer,
So
yep.
Finding a printer and a manufacturer. And the big thing for us wasn't even the cards. We could find card printers with options everywhere. It was the box. Because I'm like, I know we're going to sell this at a premium price. It's in the golf space. And I want it to feel nice. Apple puts a lot into their boxes. Even like Cards Against Humanity. If you're paying $30 for a card game, you want it to feel like, I don't want it a little bicycle playing card. So the box was the challenging part. So we had to go overseas and to find people who would build it for us, and that was a zero experience with that. But yeah, one step at a time. And it's like, all right, new problem solved. What's next? New problem solved.
So Scott, how is the game actually played?
So it's a fun on-course card game for golf. It's super simple and it works for every skill level and every age, PG-13. But you draw a card before taking the tee box. It's going to present you with either, we call them a challenge or a cheat code. It's going to make the hole harder.
Okay.
Or it's going to make it a little easier, or it might just get you laughing. So you draw the card and you do what it says. That's it. It's that simple. Everything's on the card.
2 quick examples of what could be on the card that even a non-golfer would understand.
Yeah, there's one called Get Handsy, where you get the option to throw the ball instead of using a club. Okay. That's always a nice one. We have one called Pool Shark. So when you're putting, instead of using your putter like normal, you have to lay down and use the grip as the end of your pool cue and putt the ball in that way.
Fun. And how did you decide how you were going to sell it? Because you have the choices of doing direct to consumer, or you can sell the licensing rights to a card company or game company.
Yeah.
What was the discussion there?
So we definitely treated this less like a product and more like a brand, and really approached it with a startup view, if that makes sense. So while profitability was important because it helped our company grow, because we seeded this with a little bit of money, so cycling back into, but the goal has always been growth. Like, how can we get this bigger? How can we try new ideas? So there was opportunities like, cool, we're going to grow and hopefully get acquired by somebody. Direct to consumer is the easy, like low point of interest. Always
Right.
the minimum viable product. And so yeah, going to direct to consumer is great because it scales with you. We did eventually go to retail, but that comes with all larger minimums and shipping
Yes.
and things like that. And so
And I will ask
starting
you
with
about that. Yep.
starting with direct consumer just made sense because it was the easiest point of entry. And
Mhm.
we live in a time where you go on Shopify, you could design an e-commerce site beautifully with zero experience. I've
Yes.
never done any of that, and our site looks pretty decent. I didn't have to like hire anybody to do it.
The site
So
that
yeah,
we're looking at today, that's your Shopify site?
yes. Yeah,
Yes.
backcardsforgoodgolfers.com. It's all built on Shopify and
Right.
a couple plugins and stuff. It's so
Yes.
user friendly, and there's such a body of help out on the internet, which is great.
Right.
They're first to market with all the APIs for like social selling and like TikTok shop and all of the things. As soon as it's an
Yes.
option, Shopify
Yes.
already has an easy way for you to plug it in.
Right. Were you able to get the product out there for $5,000?
Yeah, I started with a partner. We both put 5 in to clarify, but the back half of that 5 was primarily our initial marketing budget to
Right.
see if it could work. So the
Okay.
actual product was about 5. But yeah, we ordered 750 games was like the minimum really that made sense. But we didn't get a physical proof because a physical proof was like $1,500 because they have
What?
to set up all of the machinery like they normally would. Like to print everything, to build the box, they have to set all of that
Wow.
up, and it's the same work as if they were doing a full run for you.
Yes.
So you basically, and I'm sure they even lose money on that to produce one unit and ship it to you from overseas. That's very expensive to
Right.
do. So I went with the
1,500. Wow.
digital proof just to save budget, but the shaking when UPS delivered 750 games. So they're 30-pound boxes with 50 games in them each, and I lived at the time in an apartment on the second floor. And UPS guy was like, "What the hell am I delivering?" He was a golfer. He actually got the first game. Like even before I
Really?
had one, I opened and gave him one. But like
Nice.
the nerves of like opening and just, I'm going to see a big typo or the box is going to be upside down.
Right.
I was like so nervous to like flip through. I was shaking because I'm like, this would be a very expensive mistake. But it turned out okay. It was good. It looked great, and the product was awesome, and like the quality was there, and I
Wow.
couldn't be happier.
What was your cost per box back then? The whole product, yeah.
Oh, I'd have to look back, but I want to think landed, if we go by sea,
Yeah.
was like just under $5 a game
Okay.
at that quantity.
Right.
And then the funny thing
Okay,
is,
that's not bad. Yeah.
I'm putting the cart before the horse, but basically when we sold out our first run, because spoiler alert, it worked. I'm on here. We're talking. We rolled all of that into a reorder. But to keep our momentum going, we opted to air freight the reorder over from China. So
Okay.
it doubled. We were landed
Yes.
at almost $10. So we just basically destroyed our margin just to keep our momentum going. Because not only does it ship, it takes 3 months, but then
Right.
this was the time when our original shipment, or like one of our Christmas shipments was coming in, and it just sat in the port outside of LA. Like everyone was doing at the time. You remember all the ports were clogged.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
we were on back order and people were trying to get them for Christmas. And I'm like, you guys have seen the news. Like they're sitting here. There's literally nothing I can do. There's no
Right.
palms I can grease. Like we're stuck here. It worked out, but
When
yeah, so
was-
when we air freighted them, it was very expensive, but we made the decision like,
Yes.
let's keep the momentum going. I don't want to have a 4-month lull.
Yeah. Smart. And it still covered your cost because you
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
for
We were
around
losing
30.
money on it, but
Right.
yeah.
So those original shipments came to you physically in your apartment.
Yes.
All right. So you were looking after all the fulfillment, including
yeah.
the shipping. And
Yep.
but that's not still the case today, right?
No, I love that on Instagram, you can archive, like everything's automatically archived, so you can go back and revisit.
Yeah.
But I have a story of me and my wife filling orders we had a guest room closet and a shelf, and it had a computer and a printer and a box of this little system set up. And then I would go to the post office every day and drop off the games that shipped out like every day of the week. And starting out, 10 orders a day was like great. We were doing really low marketing, just trying to find the right pieces before we put any capital behind it because we had a limited budget on marketing for ads and stuff. And then one of our videos took off on TikTok, just a part of our explainer video. We posted in 3 parts, and one of them took off and it sold out our store, and then we went on back order. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I remember hearing that ding on my phone and the sales are coming through, and look at my wife like, let's eat dinner pretty quick because we got a long night ahead of us trying to get these orders out quickly. So we moved from my apartment. That was the only one. That first 750 all came out of my apartment.
Okay.
And then the next batch, I realized I can't do this because I travel too much, and then like I can't be on call all the time.
Right.
And we ended up, my mom was like, "I've got room in the garage, like I can do this stuff for you." So I had the next shipment all
Way
sent
to
to
go,
her.
Mom.
That lasted for a week and a half, 2 weeks. It was just too much. Plus,
Yes.
like for her, like, oh, we have Christmas coming up and we're going out of town for a week, and we can't shut everything off for a week. So
Right, yeah.
then I started looking into 3PLs, which is just like a fulfillment partner, which again, every step you involve somebody, you lose margin. But
Yeah, because you
get
have to
ease
pay
and growth.
somebody to do all this, sure.
So, and we use this, I won't mention them, but we use this 3PL that essentially is like built on top of existing warehouses. It's like a solution, and it's like a digital partner. They don't own the warehouses. They put the product in and lease them. And it was fine pricing wise, because we didn't do a ton of volume. Like it was okay. There were just a couple times mistakes happened where I would get a ton of emails of, "Hey, I got collagen cream and not my card game." And I reach out to the collagen cream company. I'm like, "Hey, do you fill out of this warehouse using this provider?" And like, "Yes." I'm like, "Your customers are probably getting card games,
no.
and our customers are getting collagen creams. Like, I'm filing a report. You should do the same." And that happened 3 or 4 times, which is such a headache because then they have all these like paperwork you have to submit to get refunded, and
Plus, it
corrected.
reflects on you.
Yeah, which I obviously, I mean, that's the part I hate the most. When I was doing it out of my apartment,
Yes.
this was very much a manifesting thing, but I would read the names off and thank them. For the first, as much as I could keep up with it, we were including a sticker with everything, and I would write a note on the back of the sticker. I would just be like, "Thanks so much." I would like literally write the note. I'd be intentional about thanking this person. Plus, like, we're getting orders from like Iceland and Australia and like all over the world. And it was just like, awesome. It was cool to just like really appreciate every single one of those 750 orders as they came through.
And to think that your little idea caused this connection between these people around the world.
I know. To me, that's incredible. So yeah, I would love to have that level of intentionality with every order. Obviously, we can't, because you can't scale a business that way. I'm only one person. But then we ended up moving to the warehouse we're in now, which is actually another golf retailer called Desert Fox. They make a bunch of cool like accessories and stuff, but they have their own warehouse. We'd met them through events and tournaments and stuff, and they expanded their warehouse because they needed more office space, but they had this extra warehouse. And so they actually ended up taking us on. And so they're our 3PL, but it's us and them are the only 2 companies in there. So that's really cool though, because we have definitely like this level of perfection, because they are very particular about their products and how they go out and how they interact and how they treat the customers. And so to be able to adopt that, I'm so grateful for them. Like,
what a nice win-win. And because you take up their warehouse space, and there probably would not be a mistake with these guys, but if there was, at least the recipient, your customer, is going to get something golf related. They're not going to get collagen cream, right?
Yeah, I don't even know who to complain to about this. What do you guys sell? Yeah, no. Yeah, it would be an extra product. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, just the level of care is so high because it's the same energy as me. They have a real small team. We're just like, it's like our families joined. We have a blended family with them. And when we root for each other and we share ideas and it's been an awesome relationship. So I'm so grateful. And again, our customers like get like a high level of intention with their orders, and any issues they might have are handled quickly, which I love.
Fabulous. Just want to backtrack on a couple of things. So when you started this idea and started building the company, even during that first sale, this was a side hustle, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What were you doing full time?
My wife and I had and still have a social media marketing agency. So completely remote, and we were working full time in that. And so it was funny because it started backwards. I just had a lull. I had a 2-week lull on my schedule. I was like, I don't have a whole lot on my plate right now until the next month kicks up. Like, my deadlines are met. What do I do? Let me open a whole can of worms. That's what I'll do.
That's right.
So yeah, I was doing that, and then bag cards on the side, and it got to the point where it was like, okay, cool. I'll get up and I'll work till lunch. Will be like everything for the marketing company. I'll just knock all of that out, and then the afternoon I've got on bad cards and into the evening. And sometimes the work would spill over, or I'd have fires to put out and I wouldn't get to this. So it was definitely it was a balance as it grew, for sure. Yeah.
You mentioned that one of your TikTok videos went viral and that really kicked things off for you. What do you think it was about that video that caused it to go viral?
There's a lot of, this is something I study a good bit and read marketing books and psychology books. So I'm a nerd in this. So I know what sort of things to tick. And I think what that had, the really interesting thing is we posted it because at the time you were limited to 60 seconds and our explainer video was a couple minutes, told you how to play the game from front to back.
Right.
And you typically access that on our website through a QR code when you're reading the instructions, like, hey, to read, scan this instead. So it had utility outside of social, so it wasn't edited for social. It wasn't edited to be a viral clip, and we just posted it up in 3 parts. It was the second part that got like a couple 100,000 views, which is odd. So apparently that was the hook. I think for me, it's the uniqueness of it because it didn't exist, and 2, the shareability. It's a new idea, and whether you're a golfer or not, anybody who saw it knows a golfer. And for so many people, they have a gift that they have to buy for that golfer as well, and they don't have shop for that. And so we're in there for that. But I think anybody who saw it, whether you were a golfer or not, you sent it to a golfer because it was a new thing. It looked fun, and there's this sort of social, whether it's the ego, but there's this intrinsic human value with sharing, being first to the table. That's why people want to spread gossip. That's, oh, I heard this, let me share this. Because whether we know it or not, we get excited because there's a part of us that's like solidifying our place in culture and society and a relationship. Like, as barbaric as that sounds, it is kind of our minds work. So I think having that shareability of like first to discover and send it was really high. So there's a really high social value element to it, which got it shared a bunch. And then outside of that, obviously the idea connected with golfers and people who shop for golfers, that it turned them into customers.
The name is intriguing too. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, so there's some sneakiness behind the name as well.
Of course there is.
It was intentional. It's a long name, which is annoying, but we knew we could get the domain and all the social handles. But with naming it, because it's new. It's a new concept and an idea in a space. It's a card game, but it also plays on the golf course. I wanted to put as many of the words in the name that explained what it was as possible. If we were just like, bogey time, it's like, cool, that's a fun name, but that tells us nothing. And we already have this hill to climb in marketing with education. Here's a game, you play it on the golf course, here's how it's played. We can't say the Uber of, everyone likes to do, or we're the Airbnb of. We didn't have that component. The best we'd say is, oh, if Top Golf and Cards Against Humanity had a baby and abandoned it on the golf course, like that's us.
And the people would have to know those references too.
Exactly. So we were like, okay, I wanted to say golf in the name and I wanted to say cards. I wanted to say golf and cards in the name. It has to be. And then so there was an idea of, oh, like bad card sounds cool and intriguing, and we're leaning into that sort of self-aware, slightly self-deprecating, like bluntness with the brand voice. And so then the real debate was like, do we call it good cards for bad golfers? Kind of fun. You send it, it's like, hey, you're a bad golfer, here you go. Or do we call it bad cards for good golfers? I was like, one way we play on like an ego of, yeah, I'm a good golfer, whatever. Also invites the comment of, do you have these for bad golfers? Which is great, because then we have a conversation started. But yeah, ultimately what that flip came down to was SEO. Because if we're going for organic SEO, we're golf plus good. We're competing with every training aid, with every club, with every article to how to make you a good golfer, how to make you a better golfer, how to improve, what are the best wedges, what are good clubs, what are good, there's so much in that space organically to compete with. Bad plus golf, way less. You've got Bad Birdie, which is a big golf apparel brand. And that's about it, honestly. Okay. And so it just ended up being a really, like, flipping it that way meant that like bad plus golf pretty much pulls us a bad cards or bad whatever in golf. Any variation of our name, like we organically show up a lot sooner. So it helped us not have a problem to solve later of really having to hammer through organic SEO search results and making this very easy to find on the internet. So, but there's a lot of strategy in the name, but I type it out all the time. It's my email address, and it is annoying. I'll say that.
Yes. And I should note for our listeners that bad cards for good golfers is spelled FORE. Yeah. How many views have your social media posts received?
We do well on social media across we've got about 111,000 on Instagram, and that's organic from day one. It's very intentional about any growth that we do would be through a giveaway or partnership, but no sort of black hat stuff. I did want to have an audience that built as one, somebody that we could sell to because they're real people and they're interested in what we have going on.
Right.
But two, to create like a community because our game's fun. So we have people who have purchased our product that still follow us, not necessarily because they're looking for the new releases, but because it's fun content.
Okay.
So we're intentional about building that. About the same numbers on TikTok, about 100, I think it's 109,000 on there. And then Facebook is really for us secondary. So I think like 4,000 or 5,000 on that. But as far as like virality, we've had between TikTok and Instagram, we've had some that have gotten pretty big. We have a few in the millions. And our biggest one was on Instagram Reels. And this was like October 2023. And it was me and a business partner blind reading intern replies to negative comments. As you can imagine, we have no shortage in negative comments. And because we have this brand voice, or be a little not rude or hurtful, but we can say what we want to say.
Yes.
So it was just blind reading those, and that went viral outside of even the golf niche. I think because there was this component of shutting down the Karens that people wanted to rally behind, plus adding this element of, do we fire our intern or do we promote them? And so then people were going to the comments to advocate for, we need more of this in the world. And that was up to, and we still get comments on it daily, but years later, but it's 14 million views.
Wow.
And it was huge and a real nice sales spike too. It was a lovely few months to be a business owner.
Okay. I've seen that clip and I must say that a lot of that too came down to the two of you, your whole delivery of it. Somebody else could have read those exact same lines and it would not have gone viral. Like, it's really fun. You're laughing along with it.
Yeah, it's nice to be a part, to be included on the joke, to be a part of the audience, essentially. Like, I think that's nice. And so people are flocking to the comments. And we had Khloe Kardashian commented, Jewel commented. We had like all these like kind of celebrities chiming in and
bringing their followers with them.
Yeah, exactly. So it was fun. Most people who play this sport are not really dialing things in. They're out there to have fun and to have some drinks. And again, like culture, even in the golf space, has been moving in that direction. Like we're riding the wave. We certainly aren't pioneering it, I don't think, but that was all happening. We're in the right place at the right time. And so the conversation's going there.
Yeah.
And then you go all the way to the highest, stuffiest levels and they're like, should PGA Tour players be able to wear shorts when they golf? That's the conversation they're having. We're down here like, can we hit a drive off of a empty beer? Can we do that? So the sell to the golfers was easy. The pro shops, I think we do sell into pro shops when they reach out to us. We sell into golf retail like PGA Tour Superstore and the airport PGA fan shops and Shields, stuff like that. But we had the social proof behind that. When they're like, people like this, it sells. They've got the direct consumer numbers. We'll bring them in. Proof concept is there. I think for the pro shops, the more who would be concerned about pace of play because they're going to get the complaints or damage to the course because they're going to get the complaints.
Yeah.
When they've discovered us or they've played it with somebody else or they've seen it in action and they realize, okay, they come off as being like chaos and menacing, but it's really designed very intentionally.
Yes.
And then they'll buy them in.
You mentioned PGA Tour Superstores, and I understand you've also connected with Lowe's and Liquid Death.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Liquid Death for a moment. Okay. So for those not familiar with the brand, when you look at the can and the branding, you think energy drink. There's a skull on the can. They use that Gothic font, but it's just water, very expensive water. But at any rate, because of their branding, I can see you two being a match. Tell us about that deal.
So I will say this too, like Lowe's. So for Lowe's, we did half a dozen corporate events with them. Liquid Death hit us up to fly out to LA and work with them on their like employee golf outing they do every year.
Oh, okay.
So kind of like their corporate tournament. It was all internal, super fun. But yeah, the brand is so in line with us. And again, a marketing first like approach.
Right.
Their product was almost a joke. And then it's like, I bet with the right marketing, we can sell the hell out of this water. And there was some utility where like, musicians and stuff would like have to drink, like they'd be pouring water into their monster can. So they're drinking that on stage. And so, it's just, so there was a need for it in that space. But yeah, it was a marketing play and it killed and it's killing. And it's such an impressive company. and everyone we work with there is so cool. And like, we had so much fun. But the reason those opportunities came about is because we're grinding it out. We're creating content. We're posting content that's going viral. Every single corporation that reached out to us, from Lowe's to Liquid Death and other companies like that, is because they were served something organically in the golf space. And they thought, this is fun. Let me reach out to this company.
So they
wasn't just reaching out.
They reached out to you.
They all reached out to us. Yeah. And most of it is because like and the guy at Liquid Death or contact there, he's been following us for years on social media because he's a golfer and he thinks it's fun. And he originally reached out because they build these really great prize packs for their team. And I was like, yeah, but we do this tournament stuff as well. These tournament activations, like we can design something for you guys. And so he was like, I'm in, let's do it. And yeah, we flew out and they had a blast and we had so much fun. And again, like their whole team is just a good time. And yeah, not the corporate,
no,
different crowd than the Lowe's corporate tournaments. Yes. Fun, both fun, but very different vibes.
Yes. And you can adapt accordingly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're very good at that. And it's super fun to do the Liquid Death stuff. It's no rules. Do whatever you want. I'm like,
my people.
My people. Let's go.
You mentioned almost like corporate events that you do, tournaments. Yeah. What is that package? What is it that you supply?
So we basically kind of early on decided like, where can this go? Like we're Bad Cards LLC. We left it at that. We left golf out of the name because we make fun card games for other things like bowling or bocce ball or like baseball. Do we do that? Is that the path forward or what else is there? And so we definitely like when we first went out to a tournament and we would do basically as a brand, you can sponsor a hole and you'll have your table set up there and you'll get people to sign up for something or you're hitting them up for donations or whatever.
Right.
We did a tournament wherein we were having players draw a card from select cards that we had out of our box, and they had to play it as part of the score, good or bad. We weren't giving them a pass on it. It was a fun tournament where it's like, this is what you're doing, and this is going to be part of your score. And we had 3 or 4 requests of like, hey, I run the member guest here, or I run tournaments here. What would it look like to have you guys come out to that tournament? And so then I sat down and I was like, what could this look like? And pieced together these different tournament activations. And the concept for us on the tournament side was like, you could run a 5K or you could go participate in a Tough Mudder, right?
Yeah.
So they're both running in agility, but this is interesting. How do I stack up in this? So same thing with Bad Cards. You can play a charity tournament or you can play a Bad Cards charity tournament. And so we've done them where we've overlaid the entire tournament. So you show up to a hole and the entire tournament sees the same oversized card that says, here's how you have to play this hole. So maybe it's like 5-iron only, or everybody putts blindfold, things like that. So the entire tournament is playing the same rules. So even though your score may balloon on a hole, you're eager to see what other people did. And it was really well received. And so we designed a whole bunch of different variations of that, from full tournament overlays to single hole activations, where somebody would walk up, we'd have 6 oversized cards, 3 good, 3 bad. They'd have to draw and determine. And so what we did for Lowe's was we designed something like that for them. They could donate $100 to draw from the good cards, which would help them, or they had to draw from the bad cards and play those instead. And because they're unique, we get to design them specifically so like for Lowe's.
Yes.
And we did a bunch of their tournaments. So I kept changing them up because I'm like, some of these people are on the Lowe's team are going to be the same. I want them to have a new fun experience. So things like we had a bucket of hammers up by the green that they had to use a hammer to hit all their putts. We had one where they had to tee off wearing all this like PPE gear, chunky gloves and like goggles to hit their drives. So it was all like, I walked through Lowe's for inspiration. I'm just walking and looking around. Like, what can I turn into a golf challenge in here? So that was really fun. Yeah. So all of that stuff's just custom designed. So
yeah, they must have loved the customization of that.
Yeah. And the cool thing was like at most tournaments we do, we're one of 14 to 18 sponsors there. They have something set up on every hole and all this. That's not how Lowe's operates. They're not getting, like, Lowe's pays us to be there, whereas tournaments are asking you to pay and sponsor the tournament. So it's completely flipped. They're just like, we want a talking point and experience. We were the only thing set up at the tournament. And their tournament, by the way, happened simultaneously on 4 golf courses. So we had to duplicate our setup and take a team of 8 or 9 people down for everyone we did. They were so fun. So that was huge to realize there's not other vendors here. That's not how this runs. Like, we're here to just help them have fun. We basically, the way we priced it out was like expenses and then added on per activation. So on top of all of our expenses for travel, for team,
Right.
that's where most of it goes.
Yeah.
So having us out to do a tournament activation that somebody's paying for is typically pretty expensive. Like we say, our
Yes.
pricing starts at $2,500, and that's for a skeleton crew if the flights are cheap and the hotel. Because ground transportation, plus if we're incorporating any sort of special tools and stuff. For Lowe's, we had like ego leaf blowers to try and distract them, like blowing them in the face while they're hitting their tee shots. Luckily, because of Lowe's relationship, they got a lot. They ego donated those and stuff like that. But yeah, it was pricey. I think our quotes for them ended up being depending on where the tournament was, $15,000 to $20,000, and that was primarily covering expenses and all that. So,
but they must have loved the customization of that.
And they took a risk having us out there because that's not something they normally do. And the event planner who found us because she saw we had one of our videos of a tournament activation we did actually locally here years ago.
Yeah.
It had about 4 million views on Instagram Reels, and she got served that. She was like, oh, this would be cool for our tournament, and reached out. So it's weird because it's like, I didn't even know how to start that conversation. I wouldn't even know how to find that contact information, reach out to that person without an insider. So just seeing how all those collaborations happen by just doing the best that you can and showing off your product in a good way, and it gets served to the right people and just be easy to connect with and willing to work and be creative. And that goes a long way. But yeah, I mean, it obviously went well. They took a gamble on us there at a Hilton Head event. And then the next year they booked us for 3 of the 4 that they had going on. So I was like, oh, obviously people liked it and the feedback was good, and we represented them and us well. And yeah,
it brings so many more people into the activity as well, because now it's not just about being the top golfer. It's about having fun and all these crazy reiterations of how you have to play. Where are your card sales coming from now? 100% through your Shopify website?
With e-commerce, we're about 50% Amazon FBA and 50% Shopify. And that also, the Shopify numbers do include Amazon FBM, which is fulfilled by merchants. And then we're about 10% retail right now, but we've got a lot of new POs coming in this year. We tweaked some of our retail display. That was a big issue for us as we built an e-commerce product. This doesn't tell you what it is. Cards, golf, that's all I know. And it's intriguing.
Right.
But that's all that's on there. So we built some point of purchase displays, countertop displays specifically for retail.
Right.
But then you got to trust somebody to use them and not throw them out. And when we were out in Phoenix this last trip, I went to 4 different stores, 2 airport shops, and then 2 other retailers that did carry our product. And they all had them in and they were prominently displayed, but none of them had the displays with them.
So it doesn't really say what the product is then.
Yeah. So actually, when I got home, the first thing I did was develop a retail sticker that could go on the back of the cellophane. So we're obviously like paying extra to produce these and have them stickered before we send out to retail. But I'm eager to see what the sales lift is, because we actually I had this whole conversation. I was planning on doing this when I got home. And then when I got home, we were tagged in a reel from this guy who does golf comedy skits.
Okay.
And he was like doing this voiceover, like influencer-y vibe, like joke about like, hey, let's check out the PGA Tour fan shop while I'm waiting on my layover and see what they have here. And it was really funny. And he picked up our product and he was like, and then there's this, which is a very intriguing box. I have no idea what it is. So if you're this company or you know this company, let them know. We've got questions, that sort of thing.
Wow.
And I reposted it and laughed, and I DM'd and I was like, hey, thanks for the shout out. And he was like, I think I reposted, but he wrote back and he was like, oh, sorry to roast your product. And I was like, no. And I told him the story about we're actually working to solve this. This is very validating. So I'm eager to see how that helps the sales lift and the sell through, really. And people are like, what is this? Okay, I've got it.
Yeah.
Let's buy it.
So as far as your expenses then, run through those quickly. Obviously, there's the cost of producing the actual product.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that for anybody starting something and looking to scale, like you have to price yourself to scale. Like you're going to start on day one like I did, doing everything, so your margins are great. And with scale does come a reduction in your landed cost, but really not that much. Okay. We're talking 50 cents a unit, maybe, from the difference between ordering 1,000 games to 20,000 games. It doesn't go that much per unit. The overall bill is significantly less, but when you break it down per unit. Yeah. So obviously, we have a landed cost of the product. We have an acquisition cost that we bake in between, our goal is $5 is our acquisition cost to acquire the customer. We offer free shipping on our games. It's just included in the price.
So
Yeah.
that $5, then that acquisition cost is essentially your marketing, which could be giveaways,
Yeah.
paid ads.
It's really all paid ads is how we track it. And then we track our acquisition. We also track our percentage of, we won't call it marketing, we'll call it advertising. We spend a lot on marketing that are things that are like fun projects or content pieces or things to just try to tell new stories and find new paths forward. So we invest heavily in that.
Yeah.
But as like if you're looking at as, okay, we're hitting our numbers and our bottom lines and our margins. Yeah. So yeah, then using a 3PL, you're paying them. Our average shipped with the 3PL is about $7 per game. Granted, if somebody orders 2 games, it's almost all profit from there because we've acquired the customer. Yes. We're paying an extra $25 to ship and our postage goes up by almost nothing, so anytime we can get bundled, that's always better. And then, taxes. And then on the business side, once it scales, right, we run our own social media. I do a lot of our editing, but we do have some expenses where we're editing, sending that out that goes into our marketing budget. And financial management, we use an accounting firm for that to track all of this. That's just not a world I'm really comfortable in. You want to make sure your taxes are getting paid quarterly and that you don't have a crazy bill and that someone's looking out for your bottom line. So
smart.
Yeah. And then, once you go to retail, we have a retail rep that we pay that manages those deals. And it shakes it. We don't have customer service. It's all me. It's been very manageable.
Okay.
So we haven't needed to outsource that.
And part of you wants to keep that for now, I bet.
Oh yeah. As long as it's manageable, I'll get a couple emails a week. That's about it. Okay. And I'm answering DMs and stuff all the time and questions and
sure.
Yeah. So the marketing, I think that's the thing that the acquisition cost, I think is something that people just, a lot of them starting out don't factor in.
Okay.
Because you think I have this great product, it's a great idea. And even if it is, like it's all cost per attention. Like you have to pay to get it in front of people. Right. And if it's a good idea, it'll sell and that'll great because your acquisition cost will be lower, but you have to get in front of people.
Right.
Business insurance is another thing that we have. We have people playing this on the course. We have $1 million in insurance, especially if we go out and do tournament events and stuff, just in case something gets damaged or try not to get sued. Try not to go under if you do. Yeah. And then PR is another component that we've gone in and out of. I've had some PR firms and some PR firms. We pay a company to do our SEO and our email marketing as well. A lot of these things too are sort of, it's same thing we have a firm that does our advertising on Amazon. But a lot of those things are like, cool, without this component, I'm selling less. With this component, I'm selling more. So they pay for themselves. Like you're monitoring. Those are always my favorite things, the things that scale with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you think, $30 card game and you're landing just over $4, man, you're in the money. And so there's a lot of people taking pieces of that pie all the way through.
Yes. But you're essentially saying that the hard cost of the product to get it shipped out to the customer is about $7. The retail is $30.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got all these other expenses depending on where you are in your growth journey, essentially.
Right. And our goal in our pricing and everything is to have our margins, like to have it ideally like a 50% or better markup on things when they're direct to consumer, at least. And then the goal is to have 20 to 30% profitability as a company. That's in the e-commerce space.
Overall.
That's what but it's disheartening when you start out. It's like, hey, I'm selling these $5 games for $30.
Yeah.
And then you're like, if you want to sell it at scale.
Is that 20% profitability after you're paid?
Yes. Yes. I started taking a salary as the CEO in 2024, just because I went from getting split, it's just sort of like, I do this on the side or whatever. And it's all sweat equity and got to the point where it's like, all right, we either have to hire people or I'm going to do it way cheaper. My salary is way under what we actually pay somebody to do everything that I'm doing. But it's just as a way for me to essentially require less income from the other company to balance out to where I could do both.
Right.
So that's the only payout that really happens outside of just practically, like when it comes to taxes. We do have some investors as well. And so when we have a really profitable year, I will do essentially like a dividend that will cover the tax burden. because it's like, oh, you're invested in this company and on the books you made this much money and you have to pay taxes on it, but you didn't get any money from it because we're growing. So we try to like,
Right.
that was something intentional of like, cool,
Compensate
let's
them
pay out
that
next
way.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
But it's not a burden.
What advice do you have for people who feel that they need to know everything before starting their side hustle? Because clearly that was not you.
Well, and but I had learned to not do that though. I had a couple of other startups that I had learned that from other people, and it's not something that's intuitively you want to present the best thing product. You have this thing in your mind, whether it's a product or a business or a website or whatever, you have the perfect picture and you want to present it exactly that because it's your vision and you want people to receive that. It's such a trap. Just do it. It's just obviously come up with a minimum viable product, but we wanted our cards to be waterproof. We wanted to be in a plastic box. We want all this stuff. We could not afford to do that at scale. So we had to go, I would say a lesser version, but it was original. It was like, cool, there's other things we would like to do, but this will accomplish the goal of, do people like this? And if they do, then we talk about improving it. So I think just take the next step and do it and release it and be messy and fail, because you are going to learn so much more with that. If you spend a bunch of time developing something and tweaking it to the nth degree and put it out and realize that the user experience is not there.
Yeah.
Like I worked on, ultimately it failed, but it was a music touring platform, which conceptually I still really love it. But in hindsight, I would have been all in and COVID would have hit and we would have been ruined because nobody was touring. But with that, it was my first kind of step into the startup space, definitely into a platform economy where there's it's a supply and demand both on there. So I did a ton of research, but I got the opportunity to talk to somebody who runs a platform that I was on, an early adopter as a musician and a songwriter, where people can hire you and you get paired. So I got to talk to him about it. And the first thing he said was like, don't spend a bunch of money and time on the user, like on the interface itself. It needs to work before it looks good. And I was just like on that call internally and be like, cool, man, there's no way. There's no way, because I have this vision and my experience, if it looks crappy, people aren't going to spend their time on it. And he said something that's always stuck with me, was like, Craigslist is still up and active. Reddit is still up and active. They work. Like they work. And that's what matters more than anything. And they didn't even go give themselves a facelift. And so we were hearing that. I'm like, okay, got it. All right. And that pushed our timeline up months and saved our budget by tens of thousands. So just release it, because you're going to know, especially if you're like, if it's something new and you're just like, are people going to like this? Is it going to connect? Because if you've spent way less money and way less bandwidth in getting the product out there, or the whatever you're building out there, and then you can get feedback, and then you have the bandwidth and the capital and the time for version 2, which is going to be better than your original version, even if it was fully polished, because you got feedback on the actual thing. Right. Because you're only seeing things through your lens. So once you get some feedback from other lenses, especially people who are not your mom, or not your partner, not your friend, people who will tell you this is stupid because X, Y, and Z, and the internet will do that.
Yeah. The paying arm's length customer will let you know.
Exactly. And then you can adjust from there. So I think it's a much better way to go forward. And then, you got to just like start, you just got to release the ugly thing. I know you die a little inside, pour yourself a nice glass of something, and just to ease the pain and send it out into the world.
Yeah. So what's next for Bad Cards?
Oh man, we're doing some really fun stuff on the marketing side, which is where I live. We're trying some new stuff out in that space in regards to AI. And I'll spoil alert it here. Nobody has heard about this yet, and I'm going to leak it here, and hopefully it works. I have a meeting with them later, but we have a team building out a chat bot for us that is literally designing it to roast people's golf swings, which is something that happens in the golf community. There's a professional golfer, Max Homa, that is notorious for Twitter. Like, people roast my swing, and it's really funny. And we're building a whole, like, through our DM apparatus, where everything happens through a DM, where you send a video, like you opt in for the roast and you send a video and you send that. So we're doing a bunch of cool stuff like that. We're also in the same sort of capacity. We're building a similar AI fueled thing. I don't even know what to call it, that lives within our social media DMs, where you can design your own cards and it'll actually spit out your card with a category design with your name on it as a PDF that you could like print off or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're going to be playing our favorite submissions, and we're going to put those into an expansion pack. And yeah, we have some fun partnership deals coming up this year that I can't really talk about. And yeah, just, I don't know. It's fun. We talked,
Yes.
I think it might've been before the podcast when we were connecting, and as far as marketing goes, like Bag Cards is my playground. I get to try fun things, and anything that I think no one's doing this in our space, let's do it. Let's do something fun. It gets me really excited. So, and again, it's more of creating, like, sure, it elevates our brand and stuff, but like roasting somebody's swing doesn't sell cards, but it does still create that experience that
Yes.
I'm chasing after, like fun and laughs and share. And so I'm excited about a lot of that stuff's going to be releasing here in the next couple of months. So you definitely need to be following us on social.
Well, and that enthusiasm you have for it is definitely contagious, Scott. So what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Scott?
Yeah, if you want to shop our products, we're for sale everywhere that you buy stuff. So whether it's MetaShop, TikTok Shop, or Amazon has less offerings. So I would say go to badcards4goodgolfers.com. 4 is FORE. If that's too much to type, search any variation of that in Google and you'll find us. So we have obviously our games. We have a gambling game that's a separate standalone game that actually doesn't affect your round, just your wallet. So if you're a golfer this all sounds fun, but I'm really tracking my handicap, our gambling game's perfect. It's a weird prop bet on the side.
Okay.
It has you money changing hands, but it doesn't affect your round, which is really fun. Bunch of expansion packs and apparel and things like that. So go there for that. If you want to follow along with all the fun I've been talking about, all of our social handles are at badcards4goodgolfers. So yeah.
Got it. And I'll definitely drop that information and the links into the show notes.
Awesome.
So what's your best tip to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle dream, Scott?
Man, just start. I know this is something you say too, and I've heard it from so many people, just start, just do it. Just do it. If you want to do it, if you want to try it, do it. And if you're afraid of failing, like that's how you improve. You learn that something doesn't work or whatever you learn. Like I've failed on a lot of things and I've taken that knowledge into new projects. And guess what? The new projects always do better than the last one. And my next one will do better than this one. But you can't progress if you don't start. And I think culturally we have this big fear of failure. And so reframing that as opportunity, I think, is paramount. When you go into something and like, cool, we spent this much money, we did this, that, and the other, and it didn't go the way I had hoped it would. But what do I have from this? What knowledge do I have? What did I learn from it? And if you start just looking at what did I learn and not even holding that sort of insistence upon what the outcome should be, you're just going to keep charging forward. You're constantly looking for the silver lining. Yeah, but I learned this and that's cool. And like, great. Oh, and you know what? We could take this, and if we tweak this, then we have the idea. We have the next step. That would solve this problem. So start. You just got to do it. Just go do it.
Consider too, in your journey of the last few years, how much you've learned and grown and the connections that you've made just by taking that first step and then the next and then the next. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and the other thing I would say too, a tip, this kind of goes back to that startup, that platform startup I was talking about, but you'll be shocked at like the people in the industry you want to be in, whatever that is.
Okay.
Find somebody who's doing it well and reach out to them, especially if they're in your local area or something. Just find somebody who's doing it well and just be like, hey, can I buy you a beer? Can I buy you a cup of coffee? I'd love to pick your brain, especially guys who are like stepped out of their company. I've done this in marketing where I'm like, oh, you own this multi-million-dollar company and you're sort of like, tell me what you like. People are so eager to share their failures and to help you avoid what they did. Every conversation I've had has been like that. So I would say, reach out. If you don't know where to start, or even if you're just like, yeah, I'm nervous about this, I have a lot of questions. And the question is always, if you were me and knowing what you do now, what would you have told yourself?
Right.
And you'll just the gold that you get from that. And people are incredibly eager to share their success, especially when it's the people who are not on that level of success yet that will hold the trade secrets and stuff like that. Obviously, if you're going to be a direct competitor to them, that's different. But find something in your space or something adjacent, there wouldn't be a conflict, and just ask, and they will spill the beans. It's a great resource.
Yes. And one of my two favorite questions for those people too is, what was the biggest surprise for you that you didn't anticipate? I find that revealing. And what is it that I haven't asked you yet that I should have? Because you're going into this space, it is just, you don't know.
I'm writing these down. I'm stealing these. Yeah, I like that. What didn't I ask? That's great.
Thank you so much, Scott, for the conversation today and sharing so much of your journey of bad cards for good golfers. A lot of learning in there and actionable takeaways. So I really appreciate that. And of course, thank you for being today's Side Hustle Hero.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been great.
As we wrap up, I want to highlight 3 really key points from Scott's story. First, it all started with the simple idea: cards for the golf course. Nothing fancy, no grand plan, just a fun concept that he believed in. And look where it's taken him: tournaments, corporate gigs, viral content, and partnership with major brands. That's proof that you don't need to have everything figured out to get started. Second, Scott's story is a masterclass in the power of organic growth. By consistently creating and posting engaging content, he didn't just build a following. He attracted opportunities from major companies who found him because of that creativity and authenticity. And finally, there's something to be said about the importance of branding. The name Bad Cards for Good Golfers, FORE, wasn't just clever. It was intentional. SEO intentional. It stood out, connected with his audience, and made it easy for people to find him and remember him. So whether you're brainstorming your next big idea or already working on your side hustle, take these lessons with you. Start small, stay consistent, and think carefully about how you present yourself to the world. But stay true to yourself. You never know where it might lead. Well, that's a wrap for today. If our chats are sparking your entrepreneurial spirit and providing valuable insights, consider showing your support by visiting sidehustlehero.com/support. That's where you can shoot me a virtual coffee. It's a real thing and a fun way to give the show a caffeinated thumbs up. Thank you so much. In the episode description, you'll find a link to the full show notes, which live at our website, sidehustlehero.com, as well as a link to Bad Cards for Good Golfers, their website, and Instagram. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.